The views and opinions expressed in the Golden Boot podcast are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Golden Boot podcast as a whole.
Y'all ready to get rolling? Quiet on the set. Hey, welcome back. Another hot episode of HBCU Hour SWAC Media Day Live Recap. Got my man Zach McKinnell Blue with us. And we got them boys from down south football. Got Dave. And we got my man Renard in the building. Appreciate y'all for coming through, man. Very eventful day. I guess we can start off, man, with looking at these selections, man. Start there with the SWAC first team, second team selections. Give me one. I'm trying to pull it up now. So it was announced today. We'll start with second team selections. Quarterback Jace Wilson from Texas Southern. You got Kelvin Dean, running back from FAMU. Running back Marcus Harris from Alabama State. Offensive lineman Carson Vincent from Alabama A&M. You got Joshua Trash Jr., offensive lineman from Southern. You got Meady Torrance from Texas Southern. You got Cameron Williams, offensive lineman from Alabama A&M. You got N.A.
What are we doing?
Offensive lineman. Yeah. Then wide receiver from FAMU, you got Jamari Gassett. Wide receiver from Grambling, you got Javon Robinson. And tight end, you got Jackson Davis. Now let's look at the defense second team from Jackson State. You got Jeremiah Williams. Linebacker, you got Derek Williams from Southern. Defensive lineman from FAMU, Alan Smith. Defensive back from Alabama State, Amon Scarborough. You got Texas Southern's defensive lineman, Michael Atkins. Asias Guthrie, defensive back from Jackson State. Edwin Summerar. I know I messed that up. Y'all forgive me. Defensive back from Alcorn. You got Jamal Marshall, defensive lineman from Prairie View. Texas Southern linebacker Isaiah Bogarty. Texas Southern defensive back Javius Williams. And linebacker De'Aris Thomas from Bethune-Cookman. That is your second team. I think the specialist somewhere on here. Yeah, specialist. You got placeholders Joshua Griffin from Southern. You got Jeremy Baker from UAPB. Return specialist Jamari Gassett from FAMU. Long snapper Clayton Thomas Jr. from Bethune-Cookman. First team, interesting list. Quarterback Miles Crawley. Running back Donovan Eglin from Alabama A&M. Southern Kendrick Rhymes is running back, first team. Ashton Grable, offensive lineman from FAMU. Aurelius Dunn, offensive lineman from Alabama State. Jackson State, Evan Henry. From Grambling, Taj Martin. From UAPB, from Mississippi Valley, Joshua Church. Wide receiver Fabian McCray. Wide receiver Jacoby Hewitt from Alabama A&M. Tight end Tavarius Griffin from Alcorn. On defense, no surprise here, Malachi Bailey, defensive lineman. DeMarcus Cunningham, linebacker from Alabama State. Sakelby Givens, defensive lineman from Southern. Kendall Bowler, defensive back from FAMU. Traquan Thomas, defensive lineman from Alabama State. From Alabama A&M, Amari Pate. From Prairie View, you got C.J. Presley, defensive lineman. From Alabama State, James Burgess is defensive back. Linebacker, Rico Dozier. From FAMU, defensive back, Deco Williams. And from Texas Southern, linebacker, Jacob Williams. And they did not put the first team specialists. So there we go. Get our man Doc up here. All right, fellas, that has been your first team and second team. Now, preseason offensive player of the year, Miles Crowley, quarterback from Grambling. Preseason defensive player of the year, Sakelby Gibbons from Southern University. On this list.
I mean, where do we start, right? So we don't have 10 offensive linemen good enough in this conference for preseason honors. We don't have any first team selections as of right now for specialists, including for a conference that had 2 specialists make a preseason FCS All-American list. It's just I'm not sure. Then you have a guy that I think I don't understand what they're watching with our guy out of Alabama A&M, but they give him second team. I mean, let's go check the stats because Carson Vinson is a better offensive lineman than I think all 5 players on the first team.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is just another example of SIDs and coaches shouldn't be the ones picking these teams, especially SIDs. No offense to them.
Yeah. I'll let somebody else say something before I get I'll say it. I said it last night. They should snubble. They got my boy Bubba for 2 years in a row. Now I think they did definitely, snub some people on this list. I don't know. It's very interesting. Very interesting list. A lot of billboard material. Doc, what you got?
Man, I know Blue had talked to me about James Ash for FAMU, and not to see his name on either first or second team all defense for the SWAC kind of hurts my heart. Also to have this is an interesting one. Jace Wilson, second team All-SWAC QB, to be on the list. That kind of just gets me. And then also to have Kelvin Dean, not saying anything's wrong with Kelvin Dean in his game, but if you going by just production alone, I think Herb Mulligan could have had a say-so on the second team All-SWAC list. I mean, on the only reason why he didn't get it because he didn't really play 75% of the snaps, but with his production at running back, I think he could have made second team All-SWAC. Another thing I would say, which is a somewhat nasty work, is Jalen Goss not being on here either. Straight up nasty work right there.
Yeah, I will say because notable name a lot of people thought would be on this list was Andrew Body, but there's a certain number of games you have to play in order to make these lists. So that might be the answer to a few of these. But this was a name I did not see. Herb Mulligan.
That's what I was just saying. For him not to be on the list, for him to be second team All-SWAC, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
I mean, supposedly for Irv Mulligan, it was the snaps again.
Yeah.
So I think it's a reiterative point that why do we have a snap minimum for preseason? Because preseasons are projections. Postseason, I understand having a snap limit because you don't want a situation like Kieran, who was a second round draft pick for Yale, winning the Ivy League Offensive Player of the Year, playing 4 games. So I understand that, but it's preseason, so why are we putting snap count objectives on last season? Because I'll say this: if a player was a All Conference All American in 2022, missed the 23 season due to injury, wouldn't it be safe to assume that they were probably good enough to be All Conference when they came back? So
Yeah, you can say
I,
that.
I think the logic piece is interesting, and let's just be honest. I'm not going to put it on the SIDs in particular, just because we understand that SIDs and coaches don't have time to watch the film. Like, let's be honest, like, and especially coaches, they're not going to watch the film of a team they don't play. So if Jackson doesn't play, let's say PV, how likely is it that TC Taylor is studying PV's roster and is going to have enough information on those players to put those players on All Conference? I don't think it's very likely. And then SIDs, and we don't even have updated rosters across multiple SWAC teams. So why would we expect them to watch the film and get these teams right? So it comes down to, if you put stock into these, we have to change the way we vote for them. But if you just don't want to put any stock on them and they're just All Conference, then I mean there ain't nothing you can do at this point.
Mm. Yeah, this is another word. This is another one for me. Robert McDaniel not making either team is, Robert McDaniel not making either team is nasty work also.
I wonder if the SWAC doesn't allow transfers. Was there any transfers on the list that transferred like this season? I don't think so.
I mean, but Blue, it wouldn't even matter if he transferred. It's just the fact that he actually played in the SWAC last season. To
Oh,
me, if he played the
we
SWAC
got
last
Rico
season,
too. So if Rico got
yeah,
it, then I don't see why you wouldn't put McDaniel on there.
Yeah. Like I said before, it's always snubs and stuff. Let me ask this: offensive defensive player of the year. I honestly thought Malachi Bailey. I mean, I'm not saying Gibbons is not deserving. I'm not saying that, but I honestly thought it was going to be Malachi Bailey.
I think it comes down to the distinction of, do you give it to the best player or do you give it to the best statistical player coming back? Because do I think Givens had a better statistical season than Bailey? Yes. But was Givens as impactful as Malachi was for that Alcorn defense? I don't think so. And if I had to pick a player to start my team with, I would pick Malachi Bailey. But listen, man, anytime you have a defensive end coming back that put up 20 plus tackles for loss, FCS All American, it's kind of tough not to see it. I'm not mad at either selection because I understand the Offensive Player of the Year. Irv's coming off an injury. Miles fell off. I mean, Miles fell off at the end of the year, but Irv was hurt. Jacobian didn't start the whole season. Body missed all last season. Who else do you give it to outside of those? So I'm not mad at Miles Crowley getting. He's probably the best sure thing returning, but I think Malachi Bailey should have taken home the SWAC Defensive Player of the year for preseason.
it's called, with Crowley, it's a safe bet. That's why I would call it. It's a safe pick. But also, when you get with Malachi Bailey and what he, like you said, for loss, but he also averaged 9 sacks the last 2 seasons. I want to go with the one who's going to give me the consistency, week in, week out. As far as with Bailey, like I said, he had 9.5 sacks 1 year. He had 9 sacks. I think he had 9 sacks last season.
Yeah.
What can we expect for him this season? He might give us 10. He might give us 11. He might give us 12. He might give us 14. It just all depends on what he puts out there. But I just know that with him, he's very consistent. And I'm not saying anything bad about Sakelby Givens, but I know with Malachi, I'm willing to get at least nine and a half sacks for the season, and what he could do in playing the run.
I feel it. I get it. I understand why he was picked. I just don't know right now, would any of you guys, if we were doing like a fantasy draft of the best players in the SWAC, would you pick Miles Crawley to start? Would that be your number one pick in HRP fantasy draft right now? Or just using SWAC players?
Number one, he'd be my quarterback pick. I don't know if he's number one. I don't know. I mean, outside him and Body, you know.
I would put Jacobian in that.
Jacoby, and
that's
then
fair. That's fair.
I mean, obviously, it would depend on your scheme you want to run, and there would be other factors. But I do think it should have been a closer race, and it probably was. I would imagine that he was almost unanimous. If Irv wasn't, given the fact that Irv wasn't even available for all conference, Jacobian wasn't available in Body, who else do you think got the votes? Who else would you have voted for if you can't vote for any of those guys?
I mean, I honestly can't think of anybody. Well, Eaglin maybe.
And then what? The wide receiver from A&L?
Hewlett.
Yeah, but neither one of them are SWAC Player of the Year candidates. So the fact that those big candidates were not available to vote for, I think really influenced what we saw today.
Yeah, I completely agree. And talk with Eaglin and those guys too. I'm convinced. It's a lot of these teams we brought in, we talked to. You can kind of tell who's got that confidence this year.
Yeah.
You can kind of tell who thinks that, hey, this is it. This is the year. It's gonna be interesting.
There were a few teams that were very relaxed. Like just talking to everyone today. Obviously, there were some teams where I don't know if they had a place to be. They double booked today, but they weren't able to talk to half the media. But I think you look at the preseason projections in terms of finishes. I find it very interesting that Jackson was ranked third, but the confidence that TC Taylor, his players, Coach O, how relaxed they were in the media, how confident they were talking about their team. Man, I really find that interesting. And also Alcorn, man, Malachi Bailey came in here and told me that his goal this year was 15 sacks.
I'll get ready to say that though too. I think like I said, consistency is with him, but I think he was going to try to shoot higher than what he was always going to, than what he got the last 2 years. To give Jackson State third in the division is straight up diabolical. If you really think about it. I don't know what we can see with Alabama State because like they did lose so much on their defense. But what else? Who else could you put up there? I would have been fine on the real. You could have put Jackson State as second, in the division, and you would have put FAMU as first in the division. I'd have been fine with that. But to have Alabama State as number one division in the East, like I said, is diabolical.
Can we also talk about Alabama A&M getting more first place votes than Jackson?
That's nasty work too.
I just I don't understand because the Valley first place vote makes sense because that was probably Wade. I'm not surprised about that, but A&M got 4 first place votes.
In the heck, other than Coach Maynard and the SID picking them, who the other two that picked them for first place votes? I want questions. I need answers to right there.
I'm laughing. My man Jay White said Alabama State overrated. Of course you would say that. Of course. I beg to differ, but I've got. We'll talk about it. We'll definitely talk about it as saying we go throughout the season. I think my top 2 is Alabama State and Jackson State, and I don't think that's necessarily a wild take. I don't think FAMU is completely falling off like everybody thought they would. But I also am kind of in a wait and see kind of mode with FAMU, just simply because they lost a lot, and but I mean, a lot of those players came back, but it seems like they're in constant turmoil, and that's my concern with FAMU. I think they got the players, they got the talent. That's just my word with FAMU.
I mean, you have to expect some sort of growing pains, right? I mean, let's just be honest. They're gonna have a new quarterback, new OC, new DC, new first time head coach. Why would like to overcome the odds and win a competitive division? Let's just put it division. Let's not even go conference. To be ahead of Jackson, to be ahead of Alabama State, to even get through their schedule, because you got to think you got two difficult FBS games and then difficult out of conference games. Yes, I have hair, not bald, not yet. Runs in the family, I'm sure. But I'll say this: it, would y'all consider it a successful season if Fam wins 8, 9 games? I think that's not even A plus. Doesn't even I don't think that's even high enough.
Especially
That
after
is
all
literally
this,
getting a 100
like you
on every
said.
test. If you finish with
But
eight,
like,
9 wins next year with all the turnover they had in a first year head coach. So I just think we have to reset the expectations on FAMU going into next season.
but that's just like what you said. I mean, if FAMU finished an 8, 9 win season this year, and with all the turmoil and the turnover that they had, I would still say that would be a successful season. Now, to them, more success is basically meaning that they go back to the SWAC championship game, they win that, and they try to go to the Celebration Bowl. But when you look at it down the line, you see parity inside the SWAC. You see parity inside, especially on the East, because see on a real, I don't see no team going undefeated in the SWAC, and that's something I even talked to the commissioner about that. His take was, I don't see teams, going undefeated like that. Not this season. He felt like it might be a team with a two loss record on conference play, and that would still represent out of the East in the SWAC championship game.
Yeah. Oh man. D-Lob says, and we talked to your guys at UAPB too, D-Lob, so it's interesting. He says, but my thing is, FAMU, they have dominated the SWAC even without the likes of a Dion, so it's not far-fetched that they can still be on top in the East. It can go either way in the East top three. So I don't know. You made me think what I'm thinking. Jackson State was on top for 2 years. And when their coach left and they had a whole bunch of guys hit the portal, they came back the next year, and which was last year, still had a successful season, but it still was not win the East successful. Why are we thinking this is completely different from FAMU? I'm trying. That's my thought process.
Especially with road games against Jackson and Bama State.
Yes,
It's a gauntlet. They have a gauntlet of road games this season. So when you think about it, in certain people's eyes, that would be a successful season. To them, it's not. You know what I'm saying? To them, it won't be, because they feel like they can go and run the table and get back to the championship game.
Yeah. Let me ask y'all this: favorite interviews that y'all got today?
Oh man, man, TC was a great one today, man. TC would really it seemed like he was less uptight this time. Like he kind of talked about that, about how last year he was getting pulled left and right and was getting caught up in the lights and everything. This year he seemed much more relaxed, focused, and it just meant it was really just was here to have. It seemed like a good time, and then. I didn't interview him, but just talking with Coach Wade, man, like much, much more relaxed this year as well. And I just, regardless of how people who are watching or feel about Valley's chances, bro, at least Valley has someone leading the program that really does think they can win in Itabina. And he is not shy about saying that,
Yeah.
bro, he doesn't care what you, me, Doc, anyone watching thinks about his team. He thinks he can go out here and win. And he thinks he can build a winning team in Itabina. Now, that remains to be seen if they can. But, bro, I respect the confidence, man. Because if you're not confident in that job, could you imagine how just what the culture of that program could be?
Yeah. Listen, we had Big Pat on the show, and he said 5 wins, and people laughed. I'll tell you what, them players came over here, and if they had a choice, you know, saying what they would have said 8 wins, or 9 wins. So there's a lot of confidence coming out of there. You know, what Valley is Valley. They're not going to get the respect from the outside, but I tell you what, on the inside, they respect. They believe in what they're building, and I think that, you know, saying that says a lot about, like you said, about Coach Wade.
Yeah.
I think my favorite today, I mean, of course, with Coach TC. My favorite was Isaias. You know what I'm saying? Like, just to kind of pick his brain and see, you know, see where his head is at and how he felt playing in the SWAC, you know, this last season compared to when he was in the MEAC over at Delaware State. But the very big one to me is the one it's not even a player. AD Sykes. FAMU. I ain't never met somebody, I ain't never met a woman or man or woman that had that much enthusiasm, that much energy about their athletic program, especially about their football team. And, you know, you see that she actually cares about the team, and about the players and about the having Connor Main on here too with me was a good interview, because I didn't get to interview him last year because he ran off on the plug with last season. So I had to catch him before he rolled up out of here again like he did last year. But man, yeah, it was good. And to have Coach Thomas over here from Alcorn, you know, interview him right before I jumped back on the show was a good thing too.
Yeah. So Jay White talked about She Loves D interview with Maynard. Man, listen, it was funny because she's over there interviewing, and we were sitting around talking. All of a sudden, we hear barking and growling. He's always a character, always hilarious.
That interview's going viral.
It is.
I don't know if she's ready for it, but it's going viral.
Yes.
Hey, T, your interview with Coach Man about to go viral. The barking again.
We heard it.
Yeah,
we heard it while we was over there.
He was barking. I'm sorry, it was hilarious. I don't know what kind of dog it was, but he was
clip that jump right there.
Definitely didn't get his rabies shot.
Hey, clip it. Clip, like, for real, clip that.
Yeah. I'll say, who did anybody that you talked to change your minds about, you know, saying just possibly what you know, exactly?
No. But hey, what's the saying on this show? Who's lying?
Who's lying? Yeah.
Everybody in Birmingham today was lying. Everybody here was lying. As long as their tuition was paid for by the school, they were lying today. I ain't taking nothing the players or coaches said. Everybody in here lied.
Got you.
Oh man, I don't know who was lying or who was telling the truth, but I would get ready to say Coach Cozy, but I'm gonna keep my comments to myself on that right there. No, but it's just the fact that they got confidence. It's the confidence that they feel like that their team can win.
Man, I'll say I enjoyed today. The crowd was different. It was different. It wasn't as many people here as normal, or what we typically expect, but it was it's very interesting. Paris said Bowler was lying when he said FAMU taking over the vet.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
Tell them to pull up.
So I'll say that so because of say college football coming out, the one question I asked everybody, coaches and all, was toughest SWAC environment that they played in. The one of the most responded answers was the Vet, the Whole, Bragg, Alabama State. Those were the four most common answers. Valley said Valley, but they got rid of their grass. So,
Got shut down.
yeah. I couldn't even talk about the grass. They shut that down. I couldn't even talk about the grass with them. So I just had to talk about the turf and the new scoreboard. But it's a lot of people have a lot. You could tell the programs and the stadiums and the environments that are getting a lot of respect, man. So, like I said, the Vet, Bragg, Alabama State, and the Whole. So, definitely.
I would say I'm still gonna say hands down. Other than the Vet, I would say over in Baton Rouge, over in Mumford. That's still I feel with the crowd over there, it's still a tough place to play at. Cause they're not gonna let up on let up on you. Not one time.
Yeah. Um, Man, I don't have much more, man. I think we done talked all that talk and heard all these, what I'm saying. Y'all know we've been doing a series, talking to all these teams and talking about everybody who's lying. And I think I'm all lied out, man, at this point.
Man, it's just kind of like a downhill stretch from here. And we're wrapping up these media days, man. Football is like a month away.
Yeah.
It's almost here, man. So I think it was good. I think preseason projections give us something to get us over that last 3-4 weeks, and then finally we can kick this thing off. Man, week 0, and we got some huge games, man. Obviously with the MEX-SWAC challenge and some other FCS games, man. So I'm just looking forward to it. I'm ready to get there.
Yes, sir.
And I'm just ready for just ready for lights, camera, action. Um, just ready to see what we can. As far as where my team goes, ready to see what we can do down in Monroe. First game of the season, and I think you might think I'm lying over here, Pooh, but I think we'll go down to Monroe and beat them boys.
Doc, you're right. I think you lying. But all right, man. I honestly think that's one that we talked about that last night. We think that's one of the games where that's an upset. I feel like Jackson State can go and get an upset. Jackson State went there a couple of years ago with a much better ULM team and barely lost. So
James Houston got thrown out of that game. Nugget fumbled that late kickoff too uncharacteristically, and that was probably an honorable mention for my interview, is talking with Evan Henry about that. And he said that he was media trained today, because he said he had some real feelings about ULM that he couldn't share. But man, talking off camera with him about that team and what he really wants to do that game, and I'll say this, I'd run behind him on Thursday night.
Yeah. Jay White asks, what players do y'all think will have the biggest offseason off the preseason teams?
So someone not on the preseason team that
I think he's saying the teams that are the players that are on that preseason list. Who's going to have a big season? People call me crazy. I think Crawley with Dooley play calling might be dangerous.
Crazy.
I like it. I just worry about his mobility.
Yeah.
That's my one concern there with him, is that he doesn't really fit the scheme necessarily.
That's fair.
I think the safe bet's Malachi Bailey for me. I think Rico Dozier taking over that spot for Bubba. Man, I wouldn't be surprised if he made a run at 120, 130 tackles next season. And then also James Burgess, man, I think he's kind of a breakout candidate possibly for Alabama State. He has he has that Mikey Victor size and athleticism, and I don't know where Bama State keeps finding these 6'3" corners that want to come play in the SWAC, but they have a pipeline now.
Yeah,
Bro, if you, I think E-Rob said if you ain't 6'3" or over, I don't want you. Not for no DB.
yeah.
It's crazy though. On my end, I think Jacobian might be here for a breakout season this year. Cause we got a sample size last season. With the 6 games that he played in, I think he'll be primed for a big season. I would also say another person for Jackson State would be on defense will be Reed Pulliam, our linebacker. See how he goes about and see what he does in this new form defense. But some other players I want to see, I think that might be out for a breakout season. Man, but call me crazy, but I would see Mari Pate for Alabama A&M. I want to see what he does on defense, though. Let's see how he handles it. See if he have a breakout season for defense.
Oh man. Man, listen, I appreciate Doc, appreciate you coming on. Zach, I appreciate you sitting with me, talk with me. And you'll be disappointed in me. I ain't getting no chicken this year. I ain't eat yet. It was working. Definitely have to get up out of here. But listen, I'm looking forward to this season. This is always a, the kickoff, the like you said, Zach, the downhill. It's time to get ready. So get ready to head down this road. And before we get ready to go, Doc, tell the people where they can find you.
Man, you can find me on HBC Overdrive with my pretty much my show HBCU Tonight. We go live I would say pretty much on almost every night or every other night, or even also in the afternoon. So you can catch me anytime. And you can also catch me over on Twitter and on Instagram, HBCU_Overdrive. You can catch me on Facebook under my real name, David E. Smith Douglas. And you can also catch me on TikTok under Holiday 1925.
All right, Zach, you told the people they can find you yesterday.
Yep.
But man, as always, appreciate you.
For sure, man.
It's great to see you again. Doc, same with you. I don't know if people who ain't never met Doc or seen him. That man definitely looked like he walked in today, looked like he was. I told him like he finna play in the big 3. He was finna give him a call right now. So
like I'm about to post somebody up.
Yeah, definitely about to post somebody up. But man, let's go ahead and get up out of here. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. We'll be back on Thursday. Like that, we out.
This show was presented by betonline.ag.
Bring me my money.